As we needed really waivers to sign. That way, if I hit one of y'all can't sue the church. But I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. But it's so awesome to have the privilege to speak with you to you this morning and give you what the Lord has given on my heart. As I spoke Wednesday, we finished up our series on, if you were here when I did Wednesday night, you know what series we were in. We just finished that. And this is going to be kind of an extension of what I spoke Wednesday, because I believe that it's not only for our youth, but also for this church. And so this morning I'm going to bring you a sermon entitled Bullseye, Living a Life of Aim. And so everybody knows the thrill of hitting a shot. It doesn't matter if it's sports, whether you shot a three-pointer or a half-court shot. It doesn't matter if it's business or video games. There's something about the moment when you aim and when you release and watch it connect and make contact. Whether you drain three-pointers in basketball, whether you hit bullseye in darts, maybe you hit bullseye in axe throwing, which I've never did, or maybe it's you get you win in esports, or you close a big deal in business, or you get the job that you wanted, the promotion that you've been chasing for months. In that moment, when we connect, it feels amazing. And here's the thing, when it feels amazing, why? Because it's not just luck. It's focus. It's time that we spent in prayer. It's time that we spent working, and it's our aim, it's our focus, it's precision. We don't hit that shot just by the willy-nilly, but it's because of the work that we put in. You see, my brother-in-law, he's a very avid gun shooter. In fact, he works at a gun range. And so when I go visit my in-laws, sometimes he invites me to the gun range and to shoot with him. And this was probably about 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago. But I remember this because he invited me to shoot, and I just happened to be sick as a dog. And he gets really excited when I go shoot with him. And so even though I was sick as a dog, I told him that I would. And it was the kind of sick where everything is off. It's freezing out. It was freezing outside. I could barely breathe. I couldn't hear. My ears were stopped up. And I couldn't see because my eyes were watering. It wasn't just because of the goggles or the headphones. And so there was no way that I could even see the target. That's how sick I was. Now, add to the fact that I hardly ever go shooting, that I'm not going to tell you that when I go shooting that I'm this excellent marksman, because I'm not. But when I go with him, we have that night, and so when I go up there, I'm sick as a dog. I'm thinking, hey, it's just going to be me and a couple of his friends just, hitting targets. But when we got there, they were like, hey, let's do some competitions. And I was like, let's not. Because as bad as I am normally shooting, when you add the pressures of competition, right, that makes it even worse. But they wanted to have competitions, and at the end of the night, my brother-in-law, he was surprised. He was telling everyone how great I was, but even though that he talked me up, that he gave me praise, I knew the truth. That there was no way that I had earned that praise. You see, if I had any good rounds, if I had hit anything at all, it was sheer luck and not skill. You see, that's how a lot of people's lives are. They're just hoping something lands. They have no aim. They have no real focus. They're just shooting in every direction. And they're praying that somehow, that some way, they'll hit something that matters. But life isn't supposed to be lived on luck. You see, if your aim is off, you'll waste arrows. You see, shooting in all directions, it looks like this. And I don't know why they did this, but at the end of the competitions, they pulled out an AR-15, which is an automatic rifle. They hand it to me. And they say, all right, we always end the night just letting it all loose. And I was like, what is that supposed to mean? And they were like, you just point that way and you pull the trigger. And you don't stop until the gun is out. And so we ended the night. Everybody got a chance to shoot that gun. And I was like, I don't know how much bullets are, but that seems like a very good waste of money. But shooting in all directions, it looks like this. That one season you're chasing success at work. The next you're chasing financial security. Then you're chasing relationships. Then you're chasing recognition. You're chasing the next distraction that promises fulfillment. It looks like running from hobby to hobby, job to job, relationship to relationship, or even church to church. And never looking in on what truly matters. It's filling your calendar with everything but finding yourself empty at the end of the day. And the sad part is you can't stay busy pulling the trigger, but you can stay busy pulling the trigger, but all those arrows, all those bullets are just landing in empty targets that don't last. For my young people in the room this morning, shooting in all directions can look like this. One week you're chasing popularity, and the next week you're chasing the perfect GPA. Then you're chasing the next boyfriend or girlfriend, or you're chasing followers or likes or views online. You're switching friends groups. You're switching identities. You're trying to fit in one moment and stand out the next. You can spend so much energy aiming at things that do not matter, that 5 years down the road, when your arrows land, you realize that what you were aiming at or what you had hit didn't bring you any more enjoyment, didn't bring you any more satisfaction. You see, that's why I love what the Bible tells us in Philippians chapter 3. And if you have your Bibles, we're going to read 2 verses. And those are going to be our anchor scriptures for this morning. Philippians chapter 3 and verse 13 and 14, this is Paul speaking. And he says this, brothers and sisters, I do not consider myself to have taken hold of it. But one thing I do, forgetting what is behind and reaching towards what is ahead. I pursue as my goal the prize promised by God's heavenly call in Christ Jesus. You see, Paul wasn't just shooting wild. He had a clear target in front of him. You see, when we think about living a life of aim, we can all jump to one story in particular. Probably since we've heard this story over and over and over again. We've heard it since we were a child. We've studied it since we were a child. And that's David and Goliath. You see, everybody knows the highlight reel. Small shepherd boy, giant warrior, one stone, one sling, boom, giant's dead. David cuts off his head, holds up his head. Israelites are winners. You see, it's an underdog story that we love. But here's the thing, if we stop there, we miss what actually made David's victory possible. You see, David didn't choose his weapon by chance. He didn't kill Goliath by luck. You see, most people forget that before David ever faced Goliath, he was faithful in the little things. He was watching sheep. And sheep smell. They're awful. I've been around some sheep, and they stink. I wouldn't want to be there every day, all day. He was protecting them from lions and bears when nobody was watching. You see, that's not glamorous. That's not winner status. I told the youth, I said, you are not a winner, but God is the winner. Wednesday. You see, we have a life, well, life in the world is so focused on being Him, being a winner. And what we have to realize is as Christians that we're not the winner. The Lord is. And so David, he's not winner status here. He's just showing up every day and being faithful. You see, another detail that we skip is that David wasn't even supposed to be there. His dad sent him to the battlefield just to deliver bread and cheese. David is literally the first DoorDash delivery driver. You see, he wasn't even invited to the fight. Yet God used that moment to put him in the right place at the right time. And then when everyone else saw a giant that was too big to beat, David saw a giant that was too big to miss. Why? Because he wasn't trusting his own strength and skills, but he was trusting the Lord. You see, when David stood in front of King Saul before the fight with Goliath, he said this in 1 Samuel chapter 17 and verse 37. He said, "The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine." You see, notice what David didn't say. He didn't brag about his bravery. He didn't say, "Hey, King, everyone else you've got up here, they're hiding. They're scared. But here I am, brave, courageous." He didn't say that. He didn't brag about his weaponry skills. He didn't say, "Hey, I'm pretty good with a sword. Hey, I'm pretty good with a spear." He didn't do that. He could have. He could have said, "Hey, I'm pretty good with a sling and a stone." You see, he was really good with that sling and stone. You see, when we think about slingshots today, we just think of a toy that we bought at Crackle Barrel, right? But a sling, it was a shepherd's weapon. In Judges chapter 20 and verse 16, the Bible talks about an army of men, a whole army of men, and that they all could sling a stone at a hair and not miss. You see, that's accuracy. That's focus. You see, to sling a stone with speed and accuracy took years of practice. It wasn't easy. You had to train your eyes. You had to train your arms. You had to train your timing. And if you missed the target, you risked losing your sheep. If you missed the target, you risked your life. You see, David had probably spent countless nights perfecting his aim while protecting his flock. But when Saul asked how he planned to fight Goliath, David didn't say, "Hey, don't worry, King, I got you," and pull out of his sling out of his pocket. He didn't say, "Hey, King, you don't have to worry. I'm really good with this toy." You see, yes, David didn't want to brag, but here he was standing in front of the king, and you can imagine his response. If David would have said, "Hey, I'm pretty good with this sling and stone. Hey, I'm pretty good with this child's toy," he would have been laughed out of the camp. Instead, he chose to highlight God. He didn't put the spotlight on himself. Instead, he pointed back to God. He pointed to his faith and his calling that was given to him by the Lord. You see, here's the big truth this morning. Without aim, you'll waste arrows. But with Jesus, you'll hit the target every time. You see, this message this morning isn't about having a purpose. You see, preachers and pastors, they love to get up here and they like to throw out that word purpose. You see, this morning we're talking about precision. Where your life is actually aimed. What are you truly locked in for or locked in on? Because if your focus is on Jesus, your life doesn't have to be a game of chance. You can live every day like you're aiming for the bullseye. So the Bible shows us that aim matters. Whether it's Paul pressing towards the goal or David lining up that one stone against Goliath. You see, precision isn't easy, but it's powerful. And here's the truth. If your aim is off, guess what? You can fire how many arrows you want. You can fire as many bullets as you want. David could have fired as many stones as he wants. But he would have never hit what God intended. You see, tonight, or this morning, this brings me to my first point. Stop shooting wild. You see, too many people are living without a target. This morning, anybody want to volunteer to be my target? No? Go ahead, Roger. Go ahead and stand by that door. You see, too many of us in life. You trust me, Roger? Oh, yeah. I wouldn't put it like dead center in you. I would like hold it out or something. You're just asking.
If it's my time, it's my time.
But so many of us in our life are like this. We have a target. We're ready to go. We have our arrows. Right? But let's be honest. We all call it ADHD, ADD, whatever we got, the alphabet, right? And so there's so many things going in our life. I want a promotion. Right? I need healing. Right? I need financial security. So we have a goal, we have a focus. But so many times in our lives, when we get up to shoot, we're so focused on everything else. And so here I am with my arrow, right? And this is how we look in life. I'm focused on what I need or how I feel, and we're shooting.
Oh! Goodness!
Right? Thank you, Roger. That's how many of us, that's how we are in life. We're firing arrows in every direction because we're focused on everything else. We're focused on the money. We're focused on the relationship. We're focused on our achievements and distractions. And we're hoping that that will satisfy us, that we're going to hit the bullseye. But without Jesus as your aim, you'll waste energy, you'll waste time, you'll waste opportunities, and you still come up empty. You see, back in biblical days, when they would receive their arrows, they would only receive so many. And so when they would begin firing those arrows, they would ask somebody, hey, how many arrows do I have left? And they would tell them. Because in their mind, they needed to know how many opportunities did they have left. Because when they ran out of opportunities, when they ran out of time, and they didn't have any more arrows, it was not a very good day for them. You see, if you've ever tried something new, guess what? You don't start off as an expert. You see, nobody picks up a basketball for the first time and sinks every shot. Nobody walks into on a golf course for the first time and plays like Tiger Woods. Nobody picks up a controller for the first time and drops, 20 people in Call of Duty. Right? It takes time. It takes practice. It takes focus. You see, that's why I love the story of David. Because before he ever faced Goliath, David was just a shepherd with a sling. And I want you to imagine this with me. The first time David ever picked up a sling, I'm pretty sure that David's father, he says, hey, I want you're not going to be now the shepherd. So you're going to take these sheep and you're going to watch them. But I'm going to give you something to protect yourself with. And I'm pretty sure that David's father hands him a sling. David had never picked up a sling before. This is the first time he's ever seen this. He's a child. Do you think he nailed something on the first try? Of course not. He probably shot rocks way over the target. He probably hit the ground right in front of him. He probably slipped and fell so much because of the momentum that he had. He probably smacked his face with a sling. He probably missed so many times, it would have been funny to watch. It would have been like one of those montages, right? At first, David shot wild. But here's the difference. David didn't stay wild. He was a shepherd. That meant grabbing the sheep out of the pen and herding them up the mountain, sitting there for hours while they fed. Then in the late evening, he would march them back down and put them back in the pen day after day while he was out of the field tending sheep. I'm pretty sure he kept working with that sling. He learned how to aim. He learned how to control it. He learned the patience of lining up the target. And by the time he stood before Goliath, he wasn't a kid with a lucky shot. He was a young man who had learned what it meant to stay focused. You see, and isn't that the same picture of life? You see, a lot of us start off shooting wild. We're firing arrows at anything that we might look to find fulfillment. Some of us fire at relationships, some hoping that we find the right person. Maybe we'll hope that life will finally feel complete. Some fire at a career, working themselves to death just to get a promotion and make more money. You see, some of us fire at reputation, trying to hold up an image so that people will think highly of us. You see, some fire at distractions, Netflix, hobbies, social media, anything that helps us pass the time and numb the pain. And just like David's first attempts with a sling, those arrows missed time and time again. So that's why I love what Paul said in our verse today. He said, but one thing I do, forgetting what is behind and reaching towards what is ahead, I pursue as my goal the prize promised by God's heavenly call in Christ Jesus. You see, notice Paul didn't say, hey, I chase many goals. He didn't say he was shooting arrows in every direction, hoping that one would hit. He said, the one thing that I do, you see, that's focus. That's aim. That's choosing not to shoot wild anymore. And here's where we have to stop and ask ourselves, what wild arrows are you firing this morning? Where are you wasting your time? Where are you wasting your energy and your focus, hoping that something will hit? Because Paul shows us that aim isn't automatic. It's a choice. Just like David chose to stop missing, you and I have to choose to stop shooting wild. This morning is a chance to say, hey, no more wasted arrows. No more wasted shots. My aim is set on Jesus. And think about this, an arrow was valuable. In David's time, weapons weren't easy to come by. An arrow wasn't just something you wasted by firing off into the air for no reason. Every arrow had to be made, had to be crafted, had to be sharpened and carved with care. Wasting one can be the difference between protection and vulnerability. The same is true for the rocks that David slung. To us, a rock seems ordinary, like something you just step on over the ground. But in David's hand, and aimed by God, the rock became priceless. The single stone brought down a giant, silenced an enemy, and changed the course of a nation. It didn't look valuable on its own, but when aimed correctly, it carried incredible worth. You see, your arrows are the same way. Every moment of your time, every word that you speak, every relationship you invest in, every opportunity that you're given, those are your arrows. Or you could say your stones. And the tragedy is too many people treat their arrows like they're disposable, firing them at random targets, or not really realizing how much value is in each arrow. You see, David didn't waste his stone that day. He didn't scatter 5 rocks in every direction, hoping that one would hit the giants. He aimed with precision, and God multiplied the impact. The same is true for us. One well-timed and aimed arrow in the hands of a believer can do more than 1,000 wild shots in the dark. You see, but let's be real. That's one of the biggest battles that we face today. You see, the enemy will try to convince you that you don't have any arrows left. He'll whisper, hey, you don't have what it takes. You're not talented enough. You're not strong enough. Remember what you used to do? Your life doesn't matter. Or he'll tell you that your arrows aren't good enough, that your story, that your prayers, that your faith, that your little acts of obedience are too small to make a difference. But the truth is, God had already placed the arrows. He's already placed arrows in your hands. And he says they're valuable, they're powerful, and in his hands, they're more than enough. You see, the question isn't about whether you have arrows. Each of us have arrows. It's whether your sight is on the right target. So once you stop shooting wild, you've got to set your sights. Because guess what? I can practice every day shooting this arrow. Every day I can pick up my bow, shoot my arrow, practice to where I get really good. But when it comes time for battle, when it comes time to when I really need this, I don't just set it down, not to use it, right? I set my sights. You have to decide that I'm going to aim at something. And if you don't set your sight on Jesus, the world will be more happy, or will be more than happy to set your sight for you. You see, once you stop shooting wild, you can't just put your bow down and act like, hey, I don't have a weapon. You've got to decide where you're aiming. Because if you don't set your sight, guess what? Something will. That's the enemy's strategy. If he can stop you from picking up your arrows, he'll try to convince you that they're useless, or that you don't have what it takes, that your gifts aren't enough, that your prayers won't make a difference. If you don't buy into that lie, he'll push you to aim at the wrong things. You see, I was reminded how important clear focus was when I went to that shooting range with my brother-in-law. I told you I was sick that night. My ears were clogged, my eyes were clogged. They would be trying to tell me something. It's already hard to hear with those earmuffs on. And my wife will tell you that I'm not very good at reading lips. And so they would be talking, and I'd be like, what? What are you saying? And I'm pretty sure I was yelling, what are you saying? But it was so bad, I could hardly see. You see, if you ever tried to aim when your vision is blurred, you know how hard it is. You see, that night I could barely make out the target. You see, that's what happens spiritually when we don't set our sight on Jesus. Our vision gets cloudy. Worry blurs it. Sin fogs it. And distractions pull it in every direction. And when our eyes aren't clear, our aim is off. Just like I struggled to focus on that target that night, we struggle to focus on what matters when our eyes are fixed on something else other than Jesus. You see, David shows us what it looks like to set your sights. When he stood before Goliath, he wasn't distracted by the size of the giant, or the roar of the crowd, or the weight of the moment. He wasn't firing stones hoping that every one of them would connect. His eyes were clear. His aim was locked in. And with one shot guided by God, the giant fell. You see, Paul lived with the same kind of focus. Paul wasn't drifting through life. He wasn't chasing every opportunity that came along. He had a goal, and everything else lined up under it. And that's the decision that we face. If we don't intentionally set our sight on Jesus, your eyes will drift to whatever is loudest and whatever is the most appealing in that moment. You see, for some, that's success, building wealth. For some, it's relationships. For some, it's just distractions. You see, they feel like worthy targets, but they're constantly moving and they never truly satisfy. But when you set your sight on Jesus, everything else finds its place. Your work, your relationships, your decisions, even your struggles. I do want to say this. Because before I ever knew that Jess was pregnant, as I was driving back for convention, I don't know why I prayed this. I really don't. It was just stirring in my heart. And I prayed this and I said, Lord, whatever door that you open, I'll walk through. And I'm telling you, then Sister Jess tells me that she's pregnant. Then the next day, then I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm having a baby. How am I going to pay for this baby? All the thoughts that you can have. The next day I get a call from my job. Hey, we got a spot open as a teacher. Would you like it? And I said, and normally I'm like nervous and I'm like, let me think about it. No, but it literally came out of my mouth. Yes, I'll take it. You see, when we stop shooting wild, when you set your sights on the Lord, everything lines up. But there's one more step. Once you get your sight locked in, guess what? You have to shoot with confidence. Because it doesn't matter how perfectly you aimed. If you never release the arrow, it will never hit the target. You see, if I'll be honest with you, that night at the shooting range with my brother-in-law, I was not confident at all. At all. I literally got up there and I'm trying, my eyes are blurry, and I'm so glad that everybody backed away because I probably would have hit somebody. It wasn't my gun, so I didn't know the, recoil. I didn't know any of that. I was just holding it up and hoping. You see, every shot I took felt uncertain, shaky, hesitant. See, I wasn't confident in my aim. I wasn't confident in myself. You see, I was just hoping to get lucky and hit something. And see, that's how some of us live spiritually. We know the target. We even want to hit it. But when it comes time to actually release the arrow, to take the step of faith, to obey, to speak up, to move forward, fear creeps in and our confidence disappears. You see, David could have felt the same way standing in front of the giant. He was a teenager with a toy. And he was staring down a warrior who was bigger, stronger, more experienced. You see, confidence doesn't come easy in a moment like that. It would have been so easy for David to freeze, to back down, to join his brothers who were cowering in the back, or to think, what if I miss? How many of us have thought that in our lives? What if I miss? What if I don't get this? What if this happens? You see, it's hard for us. The giants in our lives are intimidating as my wife comes to the piano. They loom over us, shouting just like Goliath did, shouting lies and trying to convince us that we don't stand a chance, that we're not going to win. You see, giants of fear, giants of temptation, giants of insecurity, giants of shame, they make us hesitant. They make us doubt. They make us second guess our aim. But here's what gave David his confidence. He remembered what God had already brought him through. As you stand with me this morning, when David faced King Saul, and King Saul questioned him, because King Saul only saw a teenager. He only saw a DoorDash delivery guy. And so King Saul, he questions him. He says, what makes you so sure that you can defeat this giant? You see, David didn't say, trust me, I'm really good with a sling. He didn't say, hey, King Saul, I've practiced for this. He didn't say, hey, I spent days and days and days shooting rocks to rocks or shooting rocks at trees. No. He pointed to God's faithfulness. In 1 Samuel chapter 17, we read it earlier, David says, the Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine. You see, David wasn't confident because of his weapon. He was confident because of his God. You see, sometimes we lose confidence because we forget what God had already done for us. We get so focused on today's giants that we forget the lions and the bears that God has already helped us overcome. Think about it. David literally fought off lions and bears to protect his father's sheep. You see, that's terrifying. You see, I don't think that I would be scared of a giant. When me and Jess are in public and somebody walks by and they're taller than me, Jess says, "Do you feel short?" And I'm like, "No." Kudos to them for being that tall. You see, height doesn't intimidate me. But if you put me in a room with a raging lion or a charging bear, that would probably get my heart pumping. That would scare me to death. And that's exactly the point. You see lions and bears up close and personal. You can hear them breathe. You can feel their power. You can see their teeth. They're terrifying. But David had already faced those battles. God had already given him victory when he had no chance on his own. So when David saw Goliath, he remembered, if God was with me then, he'll be with me now. You see, that's where true confidence comes from. It doesn't come from our skill. It doesn't come from our resources or our talents. It comes from remembering God's track record. If he saw you through the last trial, he'll see you through the next one. If he gave you strength yesterday, he won't abandon you today. He'll give you strength today. Paul puts it this way in Philippians chapter 1 and verse 6. He said, "I am sure of this, that he who started a good work in you will carry it on to" what? Completion. Until it's done. Until the day of Christ Jesus. That's confidence. Not in ourselves, but in God's faithfulness. So let me ask you this morning, what giant is standing in front of you right now? What battle has you frozen in fear? Maybe it's a diagnosis. Maybe it's a financial struggle. Maybe it's depression or anxiety. Maybe it's shame from your past. Maybe you've been staring at the giant so long that you've forgotten the lions and the bears that God has already given you victory over. This morning, he's reminding you, if I brought you out of that, I'll bring you through this. You see, confidence doesn't mean that you never fear. It means that you take the shot anyway, because you know the battle belongs to the Lord. You see, David didn't defeat Goliath because he was fearless. He defeated him because he was faithful. And you can do the same. So stop second guessing your arrows. Stop doubting your aim. Set your sight, release your shot, and trust that God will guide it. Because when your confidence is in him, you don't just stand before giants. You see, David didn't just stand before a giant. Neither do you. You get to watch them fall. You see, this morning we talked about living a life of aim, not shooting wild, setting your sights on him and shooting with confidence. And here's the truth. Without Jesus, every arrow that you shoot, every rock that you sling is wasted. You can fire at all kinds of targets. No matter how hard, the arrows won't satisfy. But with Jesus, every arrow counts. Every decision, every moment, every step of faith becomes a bullseye. You see, for some of you who've been shooting wild, your arrows are valuable, but they've been scattered in the wrong places. This morning is the day to say no more wasted shots. For others, your sight has been blurred. Worry, fear, sin, or distraction has made it hard to focus on Jesus. And some of you have set your sight, but when it comes time to actually release the arrow, fear holds you back. You see, this morning we're going to do something different. Because this morning, the person next to you, your friend, your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your aunt, uncle, any family member, none of what I talked about this morning they can do for you. It is a choice that you have to do. You have to choose to stop shooting wild. You have to choose to set your aim. You have to choose to shoot with confidence. So this morning, if that describes you, I wanted to invite you to this altar, because this altar is a place to lay that down. Don't look at your neighbor. Don't look who's beside you. Just come to the front and find a place and to say, Lord, I don't want to waste my arrows anymore. Lord, I want my life aimed at you. Maybe this morning you need to give your life fully to Jesus for the first time. Maybe you need to refocus.